Alright, hello everyone, I'm Shaun Campbell and this is part one of my raw and unedited story about my weightlifting story. How I got involved with working out with weights and all that kind of stuff. And the reason why I call it raw and unedited is because I'm just going to jump on here and everything you see you see in this video, I didn't edit a single thing or even stop the video camera. I'm just going to play the video camera. When I'm done talking, I'm going to hit stop. And then I'm going to upload this to YouTube. Because there's the one thing we always do, and I do it way too much. We wait for the perfect moment to do something. And waiting for the perfect moment means, oh, I gotta wait till I got this, gotta have that. And then when I'm done the video, I'm going to edit it, then I'm going to add this clip and do this and do that. Then I'm going to zoom in, zoom out. You think too much. And I'm going to script it a little bit. I'm going to make sure I say these points, that points. I have no script here. I'm just talking right in the camera. So don't overthink it. It's just like a kind of a little tip for you guys who want to get something started, who want to get something going. Because another thing I was thinking about is, Shaun, what is your story? Like, why should people listen to what you have to say, or support you in your fitness journey, or what you bring out to the fitness world? Why? And I started thinking, okay, yeah, I do have a story. But I don't even know my story because I never really talked about my story, and I had to think hard about when did I start lifting weights? Why did I lift weights? Not the crazy stuff not the stuff people know, the boring stuff like, oh, he runs the IDFA, he competed in natural bodybuilding shows. That's not the story. The story is, who am I? Why did I start lifting weights? What did I gain from it? All that. That's the story. Because I'm much more than the guy in the IDFA. I'm much more than I did a couple natural bodybuilding shows. I'm much more than that. So anyway, let's go with it. I'm going to start right now. Like I already told you, I'm rambling already. But I'm going to keep it real. I'm not going to, like I said, not going to edit this whatsoever. I'm going to talk until I'm done talking, and then we're going to upload it. But we're going to do it in parts. Because I'm going to take this journey up until probably grade 9 or something, right? So that's the story I'm going to tell today, and then we're going to do a little segments. And I'll tell my story in high school, then I'll tell my story beyond high school, and there's a lot to tell. I've been around this world longer than you think. So yeah, okay. So let's start with my initial story. Okay, the first time I was ever introduced to weights that I think, because we got to think way back. I'm thinking back like almost 40 years, right? I was probably around 12 years old. And my good friend that lived around the corner from me, I live in St. Thomas, Ontario. That's where I'm from, a little city. So not the glamorous St. Thomas Islands, because I would tell people St. Thomas when I went to university, but we'll get to that story later in other videos. So I tell them St. Thomas, they'd always say, oh, you're from the islands, because people would fly in, whatever, like international students, because I also had a tan, right? So they thought I was like from the islands and all that stuff, right? Because I'm naturally good at pretty good tan. So here I go, like, rambling already. So he was around 12 years old. I lived in St. Thomas. My buddy lived around the corner. His name was Brian. I don't know if you can say last names. His name was Brian Jokes. He lived around the corner. And I lived on Barn Street in St. Thomas. So literally just walk around the corner and his house is right there. His brother, older brother, was probably a teenager. We thought he was like really old at the time. He was probably 15 or 16. And he got himself a little bit of dumbbells at home. And I've never seen these things before, right? And one of the things that I do remember vividly was they had this thing where you had the bar and then a rope and then a plate at the end, and you do the wrist curl. I don't even know what you'd call that, so comment below what you'd call that, because like I said, I'm not going to edit it, I'm not going to add anything. So I came and look up stuff. so we're just going to do a roll. And I remember thinking it was for the wrist. But then you realize it's also for the delts too, because you have to hold it up, you roll it up, and then you roll it down. Then you roll it up, and you get this major burn through your forearm muscles and your delts probably. I don't remember, but I do remember doing that all the times. We were trying to build our, because when you're younger at that age, the big focus was always on your arms, right? Let's build up the arms. So he also had that, and he had some dumbbells, so we do some curls. And we didn't know what we were doing whatsoever, because we're talking back in the 80s. There was no internet. People didn't talk about macros. No one knew anything about eating protein. We didn't know anything. There was nowhere to find this information. No one you knew really worked out hard back then. Because I remember hearing stories like another buddy of mine did work out too. or try to do it. This I'll tell later down the road too, because it was in high school. But I remember, the one thing I'm going to tell you right now is, I remember his sisters heard him working out downstairs. He had some makeshift tricep thing, and this has been high school. And he told me his sister said, "Why do you do that? Why do you want to put yourself through that much pain?" Because he would like make noise and go, rah, rah. Like, because people didn't relate at all to working out back then in the 80s, right? Because we're talking like 30, 40 years ago, right? So people didn't even really understand, and it was like a kind of a joke. And if you worked out to compensate for things or whatever, right? It was like almost a joke if you took working out too serious back then with weights, because weight training wasn't the thing. So yeah, so I was probably around 12 years old, so I would have been around grade 6 or so. And my buddy Brian, so we learned how to do that, and then we reverse it. And I think he also, for some reason I'm thinking we did like these diamond shaped push-ups for triceps, and then the curls, right? Like I said, the dumbbell curls. Because the whole focus back then was to work out your arms, biceps, triceps, forearms. That's what we want to work out. That's what you show to people. So you show me your muscles, you go like this, right? So yeah, so we did that. And I really liked it, but I don't think, for some reason I'm thinking back, I don't think I did it for a real long period of time, because after that summer, because there was a weird time back, when you're that young, when you start going to different schools, for grades 7 and 8, I went to a different school and he went to a different school. So basically our friendship almost ended right there and then, right? Because once you go to different schools, it's just weird now, because you get different friend groups, right? So I don't think I really worked out much with weights or anything for a little while longer. Probably around grade 8 or so, I came across weights again. And the way I came across them was, I think I had an uncle who lived in Rodney, Ontario, which is a really small town. He was a construction type guy. And he had weights in his house, and I saw the weights. And I remember being in awe watching these weights and seeing his muscles and stuff. Because he's the kind of guy, because you know, a construction type guy, with summertime he'd walk around with his shirt off. I thought he was huge. I'd love to see him now. I don't know what he would have looked like. But in my eyes, he was huge. And he had all his weights and stuff. And of course, he had extra weights that he didn't use, and he gave them to my dad to bring home. So my dad loaded them up in the car or whatever, and put them into our basement. And we'll get into the story again with him, because I don't have a close relationship with my dad. But even then I didn't, for some reason we just didn't, he never really bonded with me. But hey, that's another story. That gives me more to talk about. So I didn't get any direction from him regarding anything in life. Basically, it sounds pretty sad. So no direction with working out, because he didn't even know how to work out either. But he's like, just like every other man, everyone wants to work out. Everyone's had like some experience with weights. So he brought them home for himself. It wasn't for me. But I remember they were down there, so I just wanted to go down there and use them, because I was very insecure, I guess, because I was always the little guy. Okay, I wasn't necessarily, I was teased a little bit, but I wasn't necessarily bullied, like picked on for some reason, because I was kind of the funny, cute little guy, right? Don't take it too serious, he's funny, blah, blah, blah. And yeah, so, and I was way behind everyone else when it came to like growth, right? Like, what do they call that, a late bloomer? Like, I was so late of a bloomer, it was crazy. Like, I was so much smaller than the average 12, 13, 14-year-old. It wasn't even funny, right? So if I try to play group sports, obviously I'm, not obvious, but in my case, I didn't do particularly well, yeah, because I was just so much, it was like like putting tiny kids against big kids. It was just like, it was outrageous, right? So my confidence was so low. So if I had anything, like if any adversity come up or they start teasing me, I would just want to quit whatever I was playing, right? And I had no role models around me that said, oh, you got to hang in there, blah, blah, blah. I had no positivity, because if I would go tell, because my mom wouldn't know anything about sports, if I would tell her that I got teased, she'd say, oh, you got to quit. Like, if my kids come to me and say they're teased in sports, you know what? We're going to work on this sport harder then, and you're going to come in and prove them. I would just ask them, do you want to play the sport? Yes, they do. Okay. We're gonna figure out how to overcome this, right? don't give up is what I would tell them. That's the message I would give. But I guess back then it was just more like, yeah, because people didn't think sports and all that was. It all comes down to how important you think sports and working out and fitness is, right? If you're in an environment where it's not important, if you have some adversity, they're gonna say, oh yeah, don't worry about that stuff, it's not important. But meanwhile, that was hugely important, because look, I'm still talking about it now, because I remember times where I was being made fun of, and I would just like, I don't remember crying in front of people, but I think I remember soccer. There was like a soccer tryout, and I said, okay, I'm gonna play, because I knew I was fast, like I was this fast little guy, and I thought I was pretty good, right? But these kids were so much bigger than me, they kind of pushed me around and kicked the ball from me, and everyone started laughing. You know, the kind of the mentality of when someone picks on someone, everyone group joins in. So everyone, at least I felt like everyone was making fun of me. The things that stick in your mind, right? Especially when I'm rambling and I don't edit this whatsoever. So I remember running off the practice and going behind the goalie net for some reason. That rings a bell. And my friend Jeff, I don't know if he remembers the story. His name was Jeff Sterling, but he was a little bigger than me. But he was probably the only one who stuck up for me with all this crazy shit was going on. Like when they were teasing me, and he saw that I was upset, and I ran off the field, because at that age people don't care. They're like 12 years old. They think it's funny that I ran away or whatever. And anyways, yeah, it didn't devastate me or anything. It just like made me, I wasn't ready. I wasn't confident. I had to work on my confidence, right? So anyways, yeah. So I don't know how I got into this story, but then yeah, so let's go back to the working out. So yeah, my dad got the weights in the basement. And then I remember one day in the basement, because I would go down there, but I mainly would go down there and do like curls and do a little bit of bench press, because we had the bench, like one of those York benches with the York big cement filled plates. I remember doing benches down there and curls. But I remember specifically one night going down there, I was probably like a 13-year-old, like a teenager, like 13 years old, but I was tiny. Like I said, I was this little small guy. But I remember just feeling so almost angry, right? Angry that I was smaller than everyone else. Angry that I never got the attention. Not angry. I approached the weights with anger. Just like upset that, I guess that's at the age where you want girls to notice you and all this kind of stuff, and I wasn't that guy, right? I was the cute guy, but like when I think back about it, I was like, because I see these girls now, they're short. I was tiny compared to them. Like they were like, I thought, because I like I said, I was a huge late bloomer, like huge. Like I was under 5'2" or 5'3", even up until grade 9. And that's no joke. Not that I'm huge now, I'm like 5'9" or so, but, and I bet you when I was 12 or 13, I was 70 pounds. And this is, people are gonna say, Shaun, you're lying, you're exaggerating, everyone exaggerates. Okay, the way I can prove this, when I went into grade 9, I first discovered wrestling. I found something that I was actually pretty good at, right? And I built my confidence up. You wanna know what weight class I wrestled at in grade 9? And I would have been 15 years old. 84 pounds and under. And you wanna know if I had to cut weight? No. What did I weigh? 80 pounds. And that was living my normal life. Like walking around weight, 15 years old, I think I was probably 5'3" or 5'4", 80 pounds. And that is extremely tiny. Okay? But yeah, so that goes to show you, like, when I say I was the small guy, late bloomer and all this stuff, I was the small guy, late bloomer and all that stuff. I'm not genetically built for this. That's where people also, that's funny, but I love it. Like I love working out and knowing I have control of the outcome. Even if it's the steps are this tiny, the changes are this small. But if you keep at it always, you will get results. Okay, so yeah, so I remember going down to Vivid Late in the basement, and I just grabbed that bar. I think I was probably out doing some teenage stuff, whatever they're doing. I mean, there was like a little, like, you know, the people that these little house parties, but it was like, back then it was a house party, but it was chaperone. Like, they'd let the kids all come together, and we'd have like a grade 6 little party. And I think I came home, and I was so upset by how all the boys are bigger than me, all the girls don't really pay attention to me. I had my first crush at the time, and she was, and when I look back at it now, because now I know her, not, I think I've, over the years, like 20 years ago, so I maybe saw a picture of her somewhere, and she's like short as hell. Back then she was huge to me, because I was like 5'1" or something in grade 6. So yeah, so I just remember coming home after all that, and then I just went in the basement, and I don't know if I cranked up music. I feel like I cranked up music. I didn't know anything about nutrition, so I drank Coke. Like, Coke was popular back then. Coke, and ate chocolate bars because that gave me energy. And I just curled that bar, and I benched that bar, and I was like almost in a zone. And I remember loving that feeling, right? So it's almost like around, I think it was grade 6, grade 7, I don't know. It's anywhere between grade 6, grade 7, grade 8, but nowhere more than that. It's before high school, because high school is when I got into wrestling and all that. So it's before then, never had a girlfriend, but I remember going down there, just going crazy on the bar, going crazy with this. I didn't know what I was doing whatsoever, but I was going crazy. And it was making me feel good. It let off energy. It made me feel like I was working towards something, because I didn't like being small, so I was working towards not being small, because I saw my Uncle Cully lifted these things, and look at his arms, look at his chest. So yeah, so that's kind of like the first years of my working out. I don't know. Like I said, I'm not gonna edit this thing. This is part 1. This takes me up to about grade 8 of my workout experiences. Yeah, so, and then yeah, I'll do part 2. We'll go from high school onward. So that's it. It's going online. If you have any comments, drop them below. We all start somewhere. Maybe share some of your story. Maybe if you relate to me. I don't know. I don't know who relates to me. But that's it. That's part 1.